Hey, what's up, guys? We're back with a recap of an amazing event that took place on Saturday, April 30 in Moncton, New Brunswick. Fight League Atlantic 3. And man, like before we get into anything else, before we get into the action, I usually don't really recap amateur fights out here, but there was some amateur fights. There was a pro fight on that card. We're gonna speak about some performances and recap the main event for sure. But before we get going any further, I just need to show you guys something because MMA events can be tough sometimes. It can get get slow, and when there's fights that don't deliver, it's a rough time. The MMA is a weird sport, and sometimes it just doesn't deliver as much as we wish. But when you got an event that begins with what I'm about to show you right now, there's no way this event's not gonna deliver, because when the step for the first fight is that high, people are gonna want to deliver. People are gonna want to do better than that. And you can't really do better than that, but people are still gonna try. So without further ado, this is how the event started.
Set it up! Set it up! Set it up! A little more comfortable in the standing position.
Yeah.
Even though
So yeah, what are you gonna say when it begins like this? It's not gonna disappoint, and man, it did not disappoint. It was a great event, some amazing performances. But before we get into all of that, I just want to speak about the promotion a little bit, about Derek, the promoter, a little bit, because man, like I've been saying in these Fight League Atlantic recaps, Derek is one of my favorite guys. He's just an amazing human being, and I feel like he's really doing the Lord's work out there in Eastern Canada. And when I say Eastern Canada, I'm really talking about the Maritimes, like New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland. These guys, they have really good MMA talent, some good fighters, some good grapplers, some good gyms, some like high level coaches, and all of that. But it's been tough for these guys because the scene has been stagnant, and it has been stagnant way before the pandemic. So these people are training, but they're not getting fights. When they're getting fights, it's always tough. There's always some hurdles, and they're not like, the fight's not getting through, and they're not able to fight their book, but they're not able to fight in the end. And it's just been tough. It's been tough for the whole scene in Eastern Canada, and Derek with Fight League Atlantic has really came back to put some shine on these people, because there are some really good fighters and some really amazing talent, and some people that are really close, I feel like, to make the jump to the pro scene, where they can shine as pro MMA fighters and maybe get to a future opportunity or some big fights. Man, because like, let's take Luke de Saint Croix for example. This guy, he's good. Clearly, he's super good. He's an amazing fighter, and he's been fighting as an amateur since 2018. But if topology is right, the guy only fought 3 times as an amateur. But even though he don't got the experience of other amateur fighters in elsewhere in Canada who can fight like 10, 15 times as an amateur, like, the guy has been training for quite a while. He's been fighting as an amateur for 3 to 4 years almost now. So this guy is getting close, even though he did not have the chance to get the experience that he would have wished for. This guy is getting closer to the pro scene. So that's one example of people that have kind of been failed by local MMA in Eastern Canada. But there are some other people, some younger guys, like some Cam Nelsons or Dylan Sheppard, that's the spinning kick KO guy that we've seen in the beginning. We're gonna talk about these guys, but they just are beginning their journey as an amateur, and they got a promotion like Fight League Atlantic, who has now put on 3 events that were good with some super high production value, like events that are that you don't mind buying the pay-per-view because they're beautiful to look at, they're well produced, and they got good fights that deliver some knockouts, some submissions. You see all type stuff in the cage, and it delivers. You got some good back and forth action, you got everything. So it's not a product that it urges you to shell the money out to buy like some other products around the country. And even sometimes the UFC, some UFC pay-per-views sometimes are absolute fucking trash, and you can't believe that like you're gonna pay your hard-earned money to listen to that shit. That's not the case with Fight League Atlantic. It's always good, it always deliver. Like I said, it's well produced and it's beautiful to look at, which is very important because we've got some very good events, some very good promotions in the country who put on very ugly looking events. Like, and then they're on way bigger platforms and shit, but sometimes the events, they just don't look as good as a Fight League Atlantic or a Samurai MMA, who are putting a lot of value into their production. So that being said, I just, before we get to breaking down some action, I just want to give a big shout out to Derek once again for doing the Lord's work, for letting these amazing athletes shine, and for building a system for them to rise through the amateur ranks and then be able to make the jump to pro and really revitalize the MMA scene in Eastern Canada, which is good. Like I said, there's some really good talent, some good gyms, some good coaches. It's just that these people don't have the opportunity to express themselves in the cage really often. And Fight League Atlantic is aiming to change that and is changing that right now at the moment. So we got to give them major props. And that's why I'm out here recapping the events, even though it's more amateur than pro fights, is because like it's really important. And some of these people could be pros if they just add the chance to fight a little since they started their careers. So that being said, let's look at this fucking spinning kick KO once again, for God's sake.
Set it up! Set it up! Set it up!
In a standing position.
Yeah.
Even though
So, like I said previously, that's how the night begun. Like, what a performance. Sheppard was facing Dawson Sampson, and in the second round, he absolutely kicked him into the shadow realm. He absolutely dismantled him. It's the best knockout we're going to see this year in Canada. Unfortunately, when I do my end of the year list and shit, it's only pro fights, so he's not going to be able to make it to the top. But for sure, I'm going to put him into the honorable mentions because it's going to be the best KO this year. Like, it's going to be the most beautiful, the most art-hitting, the most sensational knockout this year. And Sheppard, I want to see more. If Tapology's right, it was his amateur debut, and like he looked like a really good, well-trained mixed martial artist. So gotta give him a shout out for that. And man, what a way to begin the event. And that rolled in right into the second fight. Levi Nickerson, Jesse Opper, and real good performance from both guys. To be quite honest, Nickerson won by guillotine, mounted guillotine in the second round. But man, Opper did great in that fight. He landed some shots, got some good position. At a point, he was in the crucifix, basically on Nickerson's back, and he was threatening him with some strikes. And real good performance from Opper. Nickerson was able to fight through it and get they ultimately get the submission finish, mounted guillotine finish, a beautiful submission. And man, good performance for both. Like I said, this is not lost experience for any of these fighters. It was some good stuff. Then Fabian, Ixkes, Mike McLeod. To be quite honest, this is not the fight that I've watched the most. Like, I don't quite remember what happened. I remember seeing that Fabian won, but I was trying to, like, every Saturday night I was trying to do 5 things at the same time. There was a Johan Lennes fight, the UFC event, there was Fight League Atlantic. I was preparing stuff for that, so no excuses. But amongst all the fights, sadly enough, that one and the main event, like because of course that was gonna happen to me. But these are the two fights that I've seen the less of, so I won't start commenting on it like I knew really what happened when I don't. But I remember Fabian won, and I seen him win on the previous event, and I feel like he's a good fighter, and I'm willing to see more of what he's doing. Then a performance that really made it tough not to look at. Cam Nelson, man, took about a minute and a half, not even, landing a head kick on his opponent, finished him on the ground. And like when you say that, because once again, I'm looking at topology, so I might be wrong, but if topology is right, this guy was making his amateur debut in that fight and came in with an amazing performance. Like the guy is absolutely good and a well trained mixed martial artist. That is a prospect that I'm going to look forward to. Like on that card, amongst the name that I didn't already know, because the three next fights they were names that I knew and that I already watched. But among the people that I didn't know on this card, Cam Nelson, Dylan Sheppard, tough not to remember them, but they really made two of the biggest highlights of the night, and an amazing head kick KO finish for Cam Nelson. Then Mariah Clinton, Sarah Wilson, good performance once again from both. Uh, kind of like the Nickerson Opper fight. Sarah Wilson did good, was able to put Mariah in some tough spots. Absolutely won a round. I think a judge even gave her the victory in that fight. I feel like Mariah did enough to win, in my opinion. But like it was a real close fight, a good, a oddly contested fight, and really good performance for both fighters. And for Mariah Clinton, man, I know that she's not that experienced, but let's say it like it is. There is a huge lack of women's fighter in Canada, and like there's always women's fighters looking to get booked, and they're not finding opponents. It's really tough for women to get fights in Canada, since the divisions are so thin, and like there's two or three weight classes, and women, they always end up like jumping up and down from and fighting in almost every one of these weight classes if they're able to. So a woman like Maria Clinton, who's good, who's well trained, who's got some experience, who's now 2-0 under the Fight League Atlantic banner, is one of the prospects that could be moving up to the pro level in the, I won't say near future. I'd like to see her fight two or three more times maybe as an amateur, but by next year, middle of next year, depending on how things go and our schedule works, we could see her making the jump, and she's gonna be a woman's prospect that I'm gonna look forward to see and fight at the pro level. So, Maria Clinton, very good performance for her, getting the split decision win here. And then let's talk about Rob Logan, because this guy is a big, a bad bruiser who fights and gets put into some absolutely like bad positions and bad spots here and there in his fights, and he always fights through it, always fights back. It's always competitive with him, and it's always a war, and it's always fun. And this time he even got the submission. Like the guy's not even he's not even afraid to grapple. We know he likes to trade them bungalows on the feet and like be a big bad bruiser like he is, but the guy knows how to grapple too, and he can be put into some really bad spots on the ground, but he's able to come back from these bad spots, and he's able to even submit his opponent and got the guillotine in the second round of that fight to win for the second time in a row, after dropping a fight. I think in his first, was it his first Fight League Atlantic fight? Yes, it was at Fight League Atlantic 1, I remember. But yes, two finishes in a row now for Rob Logan, and this guy is just like he's must see TV. When he's on the card, you gotta watch, because something crazy is gonna happen. And like I just really like him, and he's fighting at 215. So, like, he's another one of these big bad guys that are probably gonna fight at the pro level around 185 to 200. So he's gonna be in the running to fight like the Mirza Opovac and Mathieu Langlais and Strania Gavrilovic and all these big bad middleweight bruisers that we got. So the guy, he can continue to fight as an amateur for a little while, but when he's turning pro, man, he's got a bunch of crazy ass fights lined up for him. So let's fucking go. I love me some Rod Logan, so I'm gonna keep tuning in, of course, when he's fighting. And then Luke de Saint Croix. This guy is very good, very good, very good, and I want to see him turn pro soon. The guy just dominated his opponent, was able to secure the first round rear naked choke finish, and man, he's fought some good guys. He's fought Brad Barrick as an amateur, who's another guy who's now been winning on the BFL amateur circuit. Who's a good amateur prospect in Canada. If he could whoa, that was bad. If he could get more experience, and Luke was able to defeat the guy in his first amateur fight, and like I said, I feel like amongst the amateurs there, he's probably one of the most ready guys to jump to pro. I feel like he could get some more amateur experience if he wanted, maybe even like a title fight next Fight League Atlantic. Why not put our man Luke in a title fight of some sort at 155 or whatever weight class he wishes to, and then when he's an amateur champ, he could be ready to make the jump, because like really made it look easy here, very first round submission win by rear naked choke, and that's a good prospect and a guy that I'm really looking forward to see. And then the main event, like I said, man, of course I was gonna miss parts of the main event. Of course, it was gonna be the exact time in the night that I was the busiest, and that I did not get to really appreciate such a good, great, even MMA fight, I would say, because like, let's say it like it is, these two guys were on skids. Morgan Rhynes hadn't won a fight since 2016, and we gotta give the guy his credit. He's been fighting absolute killers, from Adam Burke McDougall to Tyler Wilson to Gabe Sagman, and he's losing, except for the McDougall fight. He lost by decision to Sagman, didn't even get submitted either by Sagman and Tyler Wilson. So that's like, these guys don't want to be patted on the back for basically losing a fight, but like, that's the best way you can lose a fight, to Sagman or Wilson, because they're really good submission threats and really good grapplers, and like, they weren't able to finish Mo Rhynes. So he's still a good fighter, really well trained, and like, very probably better than his record is. And another example of this is Eric Wilson. The guy has not won since 2017, but like, he's always fighting, and to be quite honest, the guy has many losses, but since 2013 he's only been finished once, and it was by Adam Burke McDougall. Who else? But the guy's only been finished once, and he's always there to fight, even if he's outmatched fighting like a UFC guy in Chad Analiger or Vlad Kazbekov or Louis Sanudakis, or like whoever, Adrian Woolley, like fighting the absolute top guys in Canada for years. So it was a really good opportunity for these guys to come off that skid, to show the world that they're still able to win MMA fights in 2022. And man, I feel like Mo Rhynes really did great in that fight. Yes, it was back and forth. It was a good war, but from what I've seen, Mo was landing the better shots. It was able to get the best positions and avoid the bad positions, mainly in the fight. And man, that give for a really good conclusion to the event, an event that over delivered, that we have seen some amazing finishes, some great performances, some good back and forth fights. In the cases that there were no finishes, like almost every decision on the card was back and forth, was competitive, was amazing. And that was the case with the main event, a really good fight that I can't wait to watch. Like, more close. To be honest, I need to rewatch this fight like closely and pay attention to it a little more that I could pay attention to it while it was happening. But still, a good performance from Morgan Rhynes, and now he's back. He put his record back at 500, and most importantly, he's been able to fight. The guy has been booked so many times that the fights just like did not happen. So cool to see him back in action, and cool to see what's next for him, because I feel like he's gonna be a mainstay on these Fight League Atlantic cards, and I can't wait to see more from him. So that's it. That was the Fight League and Atlantic 3 event. Once again, amazing. Props to Derek. Props to everybody involved. Some good events, and why not finish this this recap by looking at this spinning kick again?
Set it up! Set it up! Set it up!
A little more comfortable in the standing position.
Yeah.
Even though